Yeah.
We like hoopers.
I
We
don't
like
want my
hoopers.
I don't want my chips
You
plain,
out
by
there?
the way. I want
No,
my
I
chips
don't-
with
I
the
don't.
dip.
I want my chips with the dip. That's all I know. I don't want my chips plain. I want my chips with the dip. So bring them dips.
So
Salt
bring
and
them
vinegar,
dips.
baby. Give straight up. I need a little seasoning. I need a little sauce.
Yeah,
And if you talk about if you talk about a player with a little bit of seasoning and a little bit of sauce, there's one that comes to mind, and that's Mr. Maxx Crosby, baby. He
friend of the show.
is effing him, bro. When I was doing my research on this, I got so deeply enamored with Max because I didn't know the full story, and I'm sure a lot of Raider fans will know the full story. So this might be redundant to you guys, but if there's fans out there watching this and have gotten this far and you're not a Raider fan, you're just kind of a casual fan of the NFL, buckle in because this is an unbelievable story. Maxx Crosby, who, you know, I called it Maxx Crosby, the art of self-reflection, because I think it's really important that us as people, we all have flaws, and it is on us to either play into our flaws or address our flaws. And not everybody, you know, I think everybody can think of somebody in their life right now who plays into their flaws and doesn't want to change and doesn't want to, just keeps doing toxic things over and over and over again. And Maxx Crosby is kind of like the best story of somebody who addressed his issues and took care of them. And I'll get into all that in a second. So if you watch the show before, you know that I live in Michigan and Ian, you know, grew up here in Michigan, and that's how we became friends and yada, yada, yada. We grew up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Right next to Ann Arbor, Michigan is Ypsilanti, Michigan, which is ironically both a place where both him and I lived for many, many years growing up. And then together as adults, we lived there. And in Ypsilanti, Michigan is a school, Eastern Michigan University, and that's where Maxx Crosby went to college. It's a MAC school. It's not a football powerhouse by any means. Usually, I mean, they have a really cool stadium that is now labeled Maxx Crosby Field.
And by the way, real quick, that stadium is right next door to the hospital I was born in, so it hits close.
Fully.
Yeah,
fully.
Yeah.
And Reinierson, baby. And it's always empty. Nobody ever goes. They were the worst team forever. They were hanging their hat on Charlie Batch for the longest time. And if you're a Lions fan in the early 2000s, you know that name. If you're a Steelers fan in the early 2000s, you know that name. But outside of those two things, you probably don't know that name. So Maxx Crosby, he was born in Michigan. He moves to Texas as like an adolescent. He grows up in Texas. He gets one singular offer to play college ball, and it's from Eastern Michigan University, which is like kind of a full circle, right? He was born about an hour outside of Ypsilanti. So he comes back to Michigan. He comes back to Michigan. He goes to EMU. He goes all MAC in 2017 and 2018. So he's just a freak of nature. And quick sidebar, the company that I work for, we hire a lot of we used to hire a lot of Eastern Michigan athletes. And the year in 17 and 18, we had a player who was on that defensive line, and he back then would tell us, oh no, there's this white boy on this team that is unbelievable. And, you know, we didn't care about Eastern Michigan football to any degree. So we would all just be like, oh, that's pretty cool. He must be good.
A missed opportunity.
Such a missed opportunity because he is now, you know, a top 5 defensive player in the NFL.
He's 2 for me at end.
Yeah, he's 2 for me as well. He is 2 for me as well, ironically. Right behind Myles Garrett. So he starts. So Max himself has said over the years, he started using alcohol as a way to kind of combat social anxiety, and he really, really liked it, right? As most people do. During one of those seasons, that I believe it was the 2017 off season, he really got super buck wild with it. He started drinking every day. He was doing drugs. You know, he was doing coke. He was smoking a lot of weed. He was just spiraling. And his coach came to him and said, "Hey, here's the deal. I'm sorry. He got a DUI. That was kind of the thing that sparked this whole story I'm going to tell. He got a DUI, and his coach came to him and after the DUI and said, "Hey, here's the deal. If I found out that you're drinking, you're suspended. Point blank. Period. I don't care. I know you're over 21. I do not care. You're suspended." So he completely, people in the program know the term white knuckling it, which is, you're not really getting the emotional help you're getting. You're just kind of thugging it out, if you will. So he was so adamant about going to the NFL. He knew that, hey, this is my chance to go and live my dream and change my life forever. So he completely white knuckled it. The whole football season, he's completely sober. Doesn't have a slip up, anything. Goes all MAC again, and then gets he going into the process of the draft, he is expected to be somewhere in that top 100. He didn't know really where. He didn't really think he was going to be a first round pick, but he thought maybe second round, maybe it was going to be third round. He ends up going in the very beginning of the fourth round. I think he was pick 106. And he was saying that, in these interviews that I'm watching with him, he's saying that the anxiety on going through the third round and not being, a top 100 pick was really, it really hurt him, because he was like, dude, I know what I am. I know how good I am. I know how good I can be. So he ends up getting the call from the Raiders. Obviously, he goes in and makes an immediate impact. He got 6 tackles in this first game ever against the Denver Broncos. Week 11 that year, he records 4 sacks, 4 against the then Bengals quarterback Ryan Finley. He comes in second in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting to Nick Bosa, an understandable loss. Goes into his 2020 offseason after his rookie year. He's now he's now got $1 million to his name. He has no school supervision. He is bored because it's the off season, and he goes on a 3-month bender where he is just partying, doing drugs, doing, tons of alcohol, tons of cocaine, tons of weed, tons of pills, everything under the sun. He's in Vegas. He's partying. His now wife, who was his girlfriend at the time, leaves him completely. He's just like, I can't do this with you anymore. He wakes up one morning and says, you know what? I'm so dehydrated that I think I'm going to die. And he called his coach, and he called his ex, his now wife, and says, hey, I need to go to rehab. I have a problem. I need to go to rehab. So they get him in rehab. He goes and does his 90 days. He gets out, and he gets with all the trainers on the team, and he goes, I want to be the best player in the NFL. I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to be, run of the mill. I want to be the best player in the NFL, right? 2021, to the season following that, he gets his first Pro Bowl. He is second team All-Pro. 2022, the season after that, he March 11th, 2024. March 11th, 2022. 2 years to the exact day of him going to rehab, he signs a 4-year, $95 million extension with the Raiders, solidifying himself as one of the best, the highest paid ends in the league. He follows that up by getting 79 tackles, 49 solo tackles, 30 assisted tackles, and 12.5 sacks. And then last year has 90 tackles, 55 solo tackles, 35 assisted tackles, and 14.5 sacks. And he's second team All-Pro last year. I mean, it's unbelievable. This kid woke up one morning so dehydrated from the drugs and alcohol in his system and says, F this, I am a dog and I want to be the best player in the NFL, and has just followed it up by 3 years of being pretty much just that. And I guess to end this all and stamp my flag on my end of things, 2024 is the year he does it. 2024, he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to record, 15 sacks. I mean, look at the trajectory. He goes from 79 to 90. He goes from 49 solo to 55. He goes from 30 to 35. He goes from 12 to 14. So let's just up those numbers, right? 100 tackles, 65 solo tackles, 45 assisted tackles. Let's go 19 sacks next year. I don't think that's crazy. And he's going to be first team all pro. He's going to take that crown from Myles Garrett next year. And next year is going to be the year that Maxx Crosby plants the flag and makes himself the best end in the entire NFL. That's how I feel.